Hello, and welcome to a special Dark Calls that isn't really Dark Calls. It's one of those lore episodes that we did once, but we're doing it again because we've run out of ideas and content, because James is now Lord of the Souls. And this is quite an interesting one, actually, because, James, this means that your shackles are off after this, I think.
Yeah.
Except for talking about it on social media. That's the last rule you can't do. But you can go onto YouTube and search videos and all sorts of shit. So you can start doing your own research. But the reason why I say no talking on social media is because we've got our Q&A podcast coming up. So I don't want you answering all the questions that you should be doing while entertaining a nation. The other thing that needs to be said is that I realised we said that the Q&A was going to be done first and then the lore episode, but that was a ridiculous idea. I don't know why I said it in that order. It's not happening in that order. It makes more sense to do this one first, then the Q&A, because then you can ask questions about lore and stuff as well, because James will know it all over the next hour
Yeah,
or
definitely.
so.
Yeah.
Because we've got two experts that return from the rather dingy, dirty world of Midnight Resistance. It's Andy Hamilton and Sean Bell. Hello, lads.
All right.
Hello.
How you feeling? How did you find the second half of James's journey?
Oh, it was exciting. It was probably the best bit, because there was the real ups and downs in the second half, I felt, and that's what you want from a journey. You know, like the bit in Neverending Story where the horse drowns in the swamp, and then. Yeah,
I've never seen that film. Sounds good though.
You've never seen Neverending Story?
Never seen
that
Neverending
scene's
Story.
particularly horrific.
It
I haven't
ends.
seen it either, and it just sounds irritating.
Neither of you have seen it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not like going, "Oh my god, how could you not see that film?" But it was on every bank holiday throughout the 90s.
Which is why I watched it, because it was always on all the time, and it just had an irritating name. You know,
I mean, I accept that.
podcast.
I accept that behaviour from Sean because he hates everything popular, but not you, James.
Want to do a podcast where you two have to watch Neverending Story, but without talking on social media or asking anyone about it.
We have to watch
You can
10
only
minutes
ask me
and
and
then bring
Dave
each
for
other.
law advice.
So there is one question I want to send to you boys first, and it's an ego-driven one. It's about me, but there's been like a comment that's been cropping up over and over and over again, and it's one that I expected, right? But one that I'm still a bit confused about, and I'm not asking out of fuck you, I'm asking out of genuine curiosity and hopefully putting me right. You guys have said this as well. The advice I gave James was horrible, right? Which I fully expected going into this, because I've only played it once. I don't really know the game as well as like a lot of people, especially its fans. But like, what pieces of advice, apart from the obvious, the forward and B one, what was the advice that was so bad?
We see, I've struggled with people who say, like, there's definitely been moments, but like overall, like, because your playthrough, Dave, pretty much mirrored mine.
Right.
And therefore, so Farley's has followed suit as well. So I'm kind of like, I'm just sort of agreeing with a lot of it, which maybe just means I'm shit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that any of it was like intentionally bad or like just a lot of it was bore out of trying to stick to your playthrough because it's what you knew. I think a lot of the stuff which made me go like, fuck's sake, Dave, was when you were going into I've forgotten its name, where the skeletons are, catacombs.
Yeah,
when you were going to the catacombs and you told James like, right, you've got to make sure you have a divine weapon because a divine weapon can keep the skeletons dead.
Yeah.
But you can also just kill those lads. Like, the
summoner guys.
The guys in the robes. Yeah, if you kill them, the skeletons stay dead as well. And that's how I did it. And, like, obviously there is two ways to do it, and neither one is right or wrong. But I was just thinking in my mind while listening to that episode, I know what goes into making a weapon divine, and just thinking like, yeah, I couldn't be fucking arsed with that. I'm glad I knew otherwise, you know. So it was more just like, hey, why are you telling him that?
I think I sort of just stumbled across it then, because I'd read somewhere that you needed a divine weapon to go into that area. And
it certainly helps. It's just not like for the faff of doing it.
But like that's the thing. There was no faff for me. I just went up to Andre and then made it divine. Like it was strange. Maybe I just managed to pick up the right things at the right time.
That's kind of exactly what I did as well, because I had the stuff on me, so it wasn't really a bother.
Yeah, one of the points that someone pointed out that I totally agree with, and I didn't even think I thought this in my head as I was listening back to the episode after James had finally beaten Four Kings. And then I thought, I was on the bus, I was on the way home, and I was listening back to it, and I thought, hold on, why didn't I leave the Four Kings until later on in those last 4 areas? Because then I wouldn't have had that shitty sort of level cap barrier where I just thought, I'm getting absolutely smashed every time. I'd have actually been a little bit more prepared for that fight instead of having to go off and grind for a bit. And someone pointed that out to me after James had completed it, and I thought, oh yeah, no, that is better advice. What am I thinking? But
I think the reason why I ended up doing the same thing, because the Four Kings is where I literally gave up on the game for 2 months before I came back to it. So I understand, James. Like, don't get the Four Kings were the absolute sticking point for me as well. And also, in my playthrough, I'd cashed in, so to speak, the Firekeeper's soul as well. Because I didn't know. So every time I died, I had to run back from Andre up the lift down into New Londo. So it was an absolute ball ache. But I think the reason why I tripped up on it is because a lot of the guides, just in terms of level, I know that's a loose term in Dark Souls because you can finish it without leveling up and all that lot, but a lot of the guides I looked at the time sort of said that was where you would go next in terms of difficulty. It didn't count the boss. It was like, no, after you've done, the Ornstein and Smoke, the next place you go is New Londo, because that is level specific for what you should be at. And I think that might have been something that tripped me up, and the reason why it took me an eternity. And it definitely is what you've said as well, because when I did the other 3 bosses, the Lord Souls, I did them all first time. So it was definitely, just a sticking point because of how prepared I was.
Hold on, you did the Bed of Chaos first time?
Oh no, not the Bed of Chaos. They did that second time.
Fuck the Bed of Chaos, man.
Yeah, see, because I did that took me about. Boss. I think it was 2, maybe 3 goes, and James
took me a few more than that.
Yeah.
But it's like it's the one boss where like they acknowledge that and they allow you to sort of carry on halfway in. Yeah. It's like they know it's that rubbish, and they're just like, yeah, whatever. It's fine.
See, it's funny because one thing I always find when talking about Dark Souls to people is that they always seem to have like one boss where they're like, oh yeah, fuck that guy, and it seems I was different, so different between bosses.
I was going to say the one that amazed me is when Farley was like, oh yeah, and then I found a guy who's like the asylum demon, but he's all on fire, so I did him, and I was like, what? Like he was for whatever reason, he was a massive sticking point for me, even though I know he wasn't even a proper boss.
Yeah.
I had a real hard time with him. And
I found him quite easy. Like I didn't have too much of a problem with him either. But then I know that Chris Spann really struggled with him, and
he also got really stuck at Gwyn. It took him like apparently nearly 100 times to beat Gwyn.
Took me a fair few.
It took James a fair few.
It definitely took. Yeah, that was a while.
It certainly
first
took him more
time here.
Oh man, there's no way I was going to first time that, but I think I did it. I think it took 4 goes if I remember correctly, which wasn't too bad. I suppose James took 8 or 9, so it wasn't like.
I would have done it more quickly if you hadn't been putting me off.
Do you know what was so funny about recording that was that James, for whatever reason, was obsessed with just looking back at my face every time he'd done something. And it was like, what are you doing? Just look at the fucking screen.
It's because I knew that you were sitting there just like smug face, like just taking the piss.
You get those moments as well where you just like I dick about a lot, and I don't stop talking and stuff. Well, you know, you get those moments where you go, okay, now I've got to shut the fuck up. There was that, the last run you had at that boss, the last go you had at the boss where you killed him, it was like, the tension in the room was just insane because you'd snapped at me at the try before that because I laughed. No, I think I went, ooh, when you were about 3/4 of his health down, and then you completely lost your shit and got killed, right? But the second time it was like, okay, now I've really got to be quiet. And the tension in that fucking room as you just getting parry after parry. I was like, he's going to fucking do it. But there's always that thing in the back of your head where you're like, he may just lose concentration for a moment and then it's all over. Like, I think after that last go, you would have really had a breakdown.
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things about Gwyn is just like, it is a lot, because he's not the hardest boss and he's the only one you can truly parry. It is a test of your nerve. And I think that's such a great way to end that game, is just like, right, let's see if you can fucking cope with this. Because he can end you very quickly no matter what your level is. Yeah. So it is just like, can you keep your nerve for what, like 3-4 minutes or whatever it is, solid. I think that's such a cool way, such a cool test to end the game with.
He's so aggressive as well, especially compared to the last the Lord Souls and stuff. I mean, the Four Kings are kind of aggressive, but they're kind of not. Like they stand there for a while, and their powers, their attacks are quite powerful. But when you think of Nito, who sort of just mopes about. And then you got Sif, who sort of just kind of stands there and brings things up from the floor. Then all of a sudden you've got like Gwyn, who's just like bang on you the moment you come through the door. It's I think it's definitely an intimidation thing, and I think you're right. It is real sort of test of nerves right at the end. Like
the thing that caught me out with Gwyn was the fact that my thing, I never really parried. I was all about dodge rolls. And the thing for me with Gwyn was that, if I was ever not sure where an attack was coming from, but I knew one was coming, I'd always roll backwards. But with Gwyn, you just can't do that because the range on his sword is too much. Yeah. So you've got to see where the attack is coming from and roll towards it, or else you just forget it. So being forced to sort of learn that was what took me fucking ages.
Yeah, it's fucking mad. I thought it was a great way to end it, especially with the music and the atmosphere and everything. I really liked it. But James, now you've had time to reflect on it properly. What did you make of the last boss fight?
Well, you see, that's the thing. I'm just remembering going through that, while we were sitting there, and it was cool. I mean, what I'd like to know though is, are there other ways of beating it, apart from parrying? How else can you do it if you were playing our kind of class?
Apparently, the whole point of Gwyn was that, it was whatever sort of build you'd used in the game, there would be a smart way of beating him, but everyone's nah, you just gotta parry him.
I didn't parry him once.
Didn't you? No, me neither. I just dodged, but that's the pro way of doing it. If you're a ranged character, it's nah.
What were you doing? Were you backstabbing him or?
I actually managed to get to the end. Total fucking luck. It's just that because I was trying to get the Chaos Blade leveled up, essentially what happened is I spent I heard the Chaos Blade was a thing and it sounded cool, and I liked the idea of having it, but I didn't really fully understand how the leveling weapon system worked. So I got to the giant blacksmith and just cashed in my Lord Soul and got the Chaos Blade. And then realised, hang on a minute, that's significantly less strong than the weapon I had. Because obviously you have to level them up again once you turn it into it. So I had to go and grind at that point. But one of the things you have to do to get the Chaos Blade is have loads of humanity, because you need to have 10 active humanity. So I spent a lot of time grinding the rats and depths. So I ended up joining the Chaos Covenant and gave them a load of humanity, which is what they need. And they opened up the shortcut into... I've forgotten its name, the lava place, Lost Izalith, which is why I've never done the first part of Lost Izalith, because I've only ever gone through that shortcut. But
hold on, what do you mean the first part? You've not done...
With the legs.
With the big leg thing?
The leg things. Yeah, I've never done it.
You're not missing much.
No, I'm not. But yeah, because if you go in through the shortcut for the first time, Solaire doesn't die. So when I got to Gwyn, I could summon Solaire.
Yeah.
And I fought Gwyn alongside Solaire, and it was piece of piss because he would just take the aggro so I could cure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Right. Okay. This show is about the lore, And James, you've got your list of questions there.
I have, yeah.
Sean, Andy, you've got your wealth of knowledge.
Can I just say,
no one's going to point out at any point over Twitter.
Maybe in keeping with the theme of the show.
Yeah.
I'm like vastly in the same boat as Dave was the entire run here. So just fire off the questions and I'll fumble you some lore answers. I think that's the best way to do it.
Hold on. Well, can we cut your fee for this then, if you're admitting straight up? No? Okay, fine. Right. Go on. Go on, James. I'm just the mediator now. I will sit back and let you guys knock it out.
All right, I've got questions at the beginning. I've got about 10 questions or so, but first of all is about bosses, because there's a couple of them I am quite curious about. Particularly, I'd like to know about the Four Kings and what their backstory is. What is the deal with them? Like, why am I fighting them? What are they?
So, the Four Kings were some of Gwyn's knights, I think.
Yes.
And then basically they were hard as nails. So Gwyn, he shared a Lord Soul between them, didn't he? Which is where the game sort of introduces this notion that, like, all the Lord Souls can be split up and divided, which is why people think that humanity is actually the titular Dark Soul. Basically the Four Kings got these powerful Lord Souls, turned to dark and went evil, and then their entire
city got
the Dark
flooded.
Wraiths. Yeah. So then their entire city got flooded in order to seal them in, along with all the residents.
That's why, I mean, because it was Dave sort of like hinted at it. Did you notice anything when you went into New Londo for the first time, when you went into the lower part of it, and you sort of glazed over it a bit, James? But you know, when I thought it was one of the most powerful moments in the game. That when you come down, when you drain New Londo and you come down the lift, and when you come out the door, the metal door where the lift is, onto the ground floor, there's a pile of bodies. Like hundreds of bodies. Yeah, that's the entire city of New Londo trying to escape while it was flooded to keep the Four Kings sealed away and the Abyss sealed away.
If I'd have known stuff like that, I would have appreciated the surroundings a lot. That's really cool. That's like a very yeah.
Do you know some of the ghosts as well are carrying dead babies?
Lovely. Okay.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah, some of them. They're cradling. Like they've got their hands are some of them have got a little knife. Some of them are their hands are sort of towards their chest. It looks like they're hunched over. But yeah, if you look at the character model on any of the websites or anything like that, they're actually holding a child.
Damn. Because that was something I don't think we mentioned on the last one. Because I think it was something that I asked you guys at one point, and you didn't have an answer. Was the no, I'm not taking the piss. I mean, I'm just asking. What's that fucking awful place? Blighttown. Yeah. You know those weird sort of bald, skinless things that roam that place? Some of them are holding some either weird doll or dead baby themselves. And I think I remember asking you, what the fuck was that? Like, they attack you with them. And I'm like, do you remember that or not? Is that just me?
No, this is... I do not remember this.
It might just be my sick dreams. I'm sure they were carrying something weird, like a doll or something. It was like, what the fuck is that? But yeah, seems to be a common sort of thread throughout the game, as I'm sure James will get to as well, because he's fascinated by certain enemies just outside Nito's lair. But carry on, James.
Yeah, that was they were not nice either. Okay, so that's really interesting because so again, were you not allowed to tell me this stuff, or you just didn't know?
I mean, most of the stuff I've forgotten, so I think I was a bit nervous about telling you any lore stuff, because that's the stuff that people take really seriously, which is understandable. I'm not taking a piss. Like, I mean, it's so well put together that even the slightest bit of misinformation would have just caused me hell for weeks. Yeah. So it was not worth getting into without being 100% positive about it.
For what it's worth, I knew nothing about the lore, much like you, the entirety of my first playthrough, and then I just dove into the YouTube videos, which I highly recommend you do. But this bit, I knew nothing about, what the Four Kings were, why the place was flooded, all this kind of jazz. But when I drained New Londo and came out onto it and saw the bodies on the floor, regardless of how much I knew about the lore, I did pick up on that and went, shit, okay, something bad has happened here. That was one of the ones that kind of transcended the otherwise quite difficult to get into lore. You know, it broke through Dark Souls kind of like wall between you and finding out what was going on.
See, I didn't really notice that. I think maybe because it's I don't know, it was so dark down there as well. It's like hard to make things out. You know, I don't know. That's my excuse anyway.
I think it's quite easy to get desensitized to stuff like that in a game like Dark Souls as well, because it's just like filth everywhere. So you just see, but like Pal's dead bodies, you just sort of register them as just mounds of shit. Basically, you don't really, you don't necessarily look twice.
Especially because like down in Blighttown, it was like that a lot. There was just a lot of just mounds of piles of literally shit.
Yeah, and the other reason I didn't really go into the lore too much, James, was the fact that the sort of final act of the game I really rushed through. Like, I didn't take my time like I did with the rest of the game, you know what I mean? So a lot of it sort of just didn't register with me. As I said, like I looked into it a lot after I completed the game, but because I'd rushed through a lot of it, I'd forgotten most of it, I think.
Yeah, it's a good one to start with as well, the Four Kings and that specific moment, because that one it sort of sets the tone for how a lot of this stuff is explained. That it will just be a thing in the corner.
Yeah, it's environmental.
And if you don't pick up on it,
So I don't know if you noticed, there's the sort of wizard-looking guides in the red robes. There's one in New Londo, so they're known as the Sealers. The implication being they're the ones who flooded the place in order to seal the Four Kings in. So there's one of them who's just sort of hanging around, presumably making sure. Actually, no, because he doesn't have a go at you for draining the place, does he? So I don't know what his deal is. But then there's
doesn't he say something about you being the chosen one though?
Oh,
so
possibly.
maybe that he like when you first meet him, doesn't he say something?
Yeah, that's
like,
the one.
Holy fuck! What are you doing up here or some shit?
And then there's
That's exactly what he says.
And then it mentions one of the other sealers basically felt like shit about the whole thing, so she took her healing arts to Blighttown, and then of course you find a set of sealers' robes in Blighttown. So presumably she didn't do so well.
Work out. Yeah.
Got the chop.
All right. So my next one is about the Duke's archives, because I'd like to know who the Duke is. Is there any knowing what that was about?
It's not explicit, I don't think, but the implication is that it is Seath. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's his books.
Yeah.
This is one side of things that I never really, like, you know me with fantasy, and I never really sort of, is it a usual thing that, like, dragons are on sort of a, you know, I know that dragons are like more intelligent than animals or what. This is going to sound so.
But how do you know that?
I'm loving this, David. It's really funny.
Because
like about dragons.
Because like I suppose because of the little that I've heard of that Game of Thrones thing, where they're like, oh no, they're actually like a race. Oh God. Oh.
Sorry, I'm intrigued where you.
Can we play this back
So am
now?
I, Sean. What I'm saying is that they're seen as on a par, if not more intelligent species as humans in is that in across all of fantasy?
No, I think it's
usually
it's
quite
case by
wise
case.
if they can talk.
Right.
Yeah, they're either monsters like just roar and breathe fire, or if they can talk, they're usually like, because they've been around for hundreds of years, because they're an old lizard, so they sometimes wizened, I guess.
Yeah. Right, so because what I didn't get, like, with the moment where I go, like, I very rarely do this with Dark Souls, because I think, you know, the mythology behind it all pieces together perfectly and it really works. But when I heard, like, one of the lords was a dragon, I was like, oh, come on. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and then Seath decided that he was going to be a traitor to his race. Oh, come on.
I mean, to be fair, you could well ask how he's able to like get all those books off the shelves and read them.
Yeah, with his little arms.
That's a valid question.
Hey, well, maybe he's got someone to read them to him. You know, it's just like
what, like bedtime stories.
Yeah.
No, that's not being a fan of the fantasy stuff. That was the moment where I was like, no, I'm not on board with that bit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how can he communicate with everyone? What? I don't know. It didn't really work with me.
It's all right. It's by taps. One for yes, twice for no.
So the deal with Seath is that he's because he was born without scales, which means basically scales are what grant the dragons their sort of immortality. I mean, so you can't damage them, which is why he feels like he's a shit dragon. So he betrays all the other dragons. And then basically the Duke's archives and all the sort of weird shit you see there. That's all him doing research into trying to make himself immortal.
He found like the primordial crystal, basically. Yeah. That apparently is something that the dragons had, the ones that he betrayed during the Great War before the start of the game. Yes, before the start of the game, and this crystal can grant immortality.
And that's the thing you've got to smash up.
Yeah.
And that's what he's experimenting on. In his archives. So he's got all these books and he's gone a bit mad with power, essentially. Yeah. That's a really cool thing actually about Seath. Throughout the game, you might have seen those weird guys who look like they're wearing a big robe and they fire magic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's one in the undead parish.
James, you know what we're talking about. We spoke about this on the last episode. You just did that dismissive again, right?
Was that
the dudes that dance?
Seriously. I know. I remember. That's why it's those ones that do that weird dance.
Yes, right. Yeah. They work.
Repeat if I said. Go on.
Yeah. They work for Seath, and they go out and seek people for him to experiment on.
Women,
and usually women. Yeah, so usually if you see one of them, there will be like one of the female NPCs around because he's after them. And in some situations, the female NPC can end up in Seath's, in those prisons that you go, in the big staircase bit in the Duke's archives after you get killed. Now, those weird things at the bottom? They're like weird blob,
sort of
blue things.
Head things, yeah.
James, this is where you talk, mate. This is where you interact.
I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember that bit. Oh, yeah.
Hang on. Right at the bottom, you fight C for the first time, you get killed, you go to the bottom of that set of staircase, and there's that prison cell full of these creepy blue things.
Yeah.
A couple of them walk towards you. You probably didn't notice this because you probably just did what I did and waded in, slaughtering them all. But if you kill all of them, two of them, they don't. You'll notice they don't actually attack.
Yes, I do remember. They were like in by a corner. Yeah, and they did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you listen to them?
No, I just kept.
They cry. They're just crying.
Yeah, they're just sobbing against the wall, basically.
Yeah, they're actually two of the NPC women from the game that have been experimented on, and it's gone wrong. They're mistakes, and he just holds them at the bottom of his tower.
And aren't they? Because they're both, like, I forget the proper term for it, but the sort of faith, religion.
Yeah,
in Dark Souls, I've forgotten the proper term for it, but yeah, it's basically seems to go for them, doesn't it? Because if you kill the crying monsters, they both drop like quite high level miracles.
Yes. So what we're saying is you're a monster.
That's the link.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad now that I slaughtered them.
Yeah.
Hey, you should.
Like,
me too. Don't get me wrong. But
So what we're saying here is that Seath was probably a gamergator. Is that it?
Pretty much. Yeah.
And that's the other thing as well. Is like I always thought that the Crystal Caves, although I had really no problem with it in terms of difficulty, I just didn't think it was a particularly good area. But this is one of the places where, when I found out that the lore behind it, that the Crystal Caves are him experimenting on the crystal that you have to smash at the start, and it's kind of growing out of control, and that's why a lot of the enemies in the area have like those weird crystal bits sticking out of them, the soldiers. Yeah, it's because they've been experimented on by his kind of him experimenting on the primordial crystal. Finding out that made that area way more interesting because it's quite short and it's not that impressive. But I was just after finding that out, I was like, it makes sense.
So he was trying to make him immortal then? Yeah,
he was messing with things he shouldn't be messing with, basically. It was a classic, Frankenstein's monster sort of.
Dragon gone too far. So, because that was the thing about
gone too far.
Classic Dragon gone too far.
Yeah. See, that was the thing because I remember when we talked about that area about how I felt at the time like it was a bit of a wasted opportunity because it was so small. And but I mean, the other thing I wanted to ask you about actually with that area was all those clock pieces down at the bottom. All the cogs that are all broken, and what that's about.
I'll be honest here, I remember you saying that on the episode, and I ain't got a fucking clue, mate.
Yeah, I've got absolutely no memory of that.
Okay, that's a shame.
Yeah, no, sorry.
I think I remember asking you guys that when I played it, and you said the same thing. There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason. There
will be.
It looked like a big deal as well because it was all. Because at first, when I saw all that, I was like, "Am I going to have to reassemble that or something?" Cause it looked
Did you have your Zelda head on?
Yeah, but I didn't have to. I just killed some women. It was all right in the game.
You're just a cog in the machine, James. That's the. Don't know what that means. Go on.
All right. Anyway, so next, I want to talk about the sock puppet thing.
Oh yeah. No, I enjoyed this bit. Go on.
Because I want to know what the deal is with that thing. Who is it? Is it working for itself? Is it working for someone else?
So there's so there are two of them. There are two separate ones. The one you found in the Abyss after you defeat the Four Kings. I think David pointed this out at the time. But you don't necessarily meet him.
Yeah. What you did there is a bit odd. I only did that on my second playthrough.
Yeah. So the first guy you meet, who's King Seeker Frampt, he's he's the one who's on the side of the gods, and he's like, yeah, mate, you should rekindle the flame. It'll be all right. It'll be good. Do that. And then the guy you meet down in the Abyss, who, as I say, who doesn't necessarily appear. I think it's if you haven't already sort of properly become mates with Frampt, then and then you beat the Four Kings.
Yeah, when you speak to Frampt for the first time, he gives you his spiel, but then he asks you, "Do you want to give me the Lord Vessel now?" And I'll go stick it in the place. And then obviously you crack on with the final part of the game. But if you choose to not. You can chat to him and find out his side of the story, but if you choose, when he says, "Do you want to give me the Lord Vessel?" If you don't give him the Lord Vessel, after the Four Kings, Kath will show up, or Karth, or whatever his name is.
I think everyone's... I think we're just...
Hang on, so which one did I have?
So in the Abyss, you had Darkstalker, Karth.
Yeah. So what's the difference in their motivations then?
So Frampt wants you to rekindle the flame and extend this sort of era of light, whereas Karth's just like, nah, fuck it, mate. Everything's meant to go dark again. It's a natural cycle, and it needs to carry on. Whose side you pick is entirely up to you. There is no right answer. Which is sort of
one of the things that is quite interesting about Karth is he's I think he's in charge of the Dark Wraiths.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you want to do some of the better PvP stuff, if you want to become one of the people who invades people's games and fucks them up, you have to see him. He's the guy who's in charge of that.
Yeah.
So you'd obviously have to play through that first bit of the game, beat the Four Kings, and not give the Lord Vessel to the first guy, and then you'll meet him like you did.
Yeah.
But most people on their first playthrough, they don't meet him because they see the first guy, Frampt, up at Firelink Shrine, and just go, "Yep, cool. Here's the Lord Vessel," and then they just crack on.
And because
I remember meeting that one up at the Firelink Shrine, but I didn't. Yeah. I interacted with it a bit, but I just thought it was the same thing because they look kind of similar. Well, to me,
they are. Yeah,
there is a theory that they are, aren't they? There is a theory that they are top and bottom, basically.
Yeah. Because there's that shield there's a shield in Dark Souls 2 that has them both on it, and they're sort of like entwined in the middle, basically. But yeah, whatever you pick, my personal take on it was that basically, so if you chuck yourself on the bonfire and rekindle the flame, that's what Gwyn has already done, and basically it's prolonged the Age of Light, but it's not really it's never going to last forever, and that's sort of the point. So I was like, fuck it, darkness, mate, why not? Because it's about sort of selfishly prolonging the bit that you like, or allowing something that isn't necessarily what you want, but it's just a natural cycle that you have to allow to take place. You know?
Yeah.
See, that's the other thing I want to ask you about, because I ended the game.
Oh, whoa, hold on. Because I feel that I should add a little bit of weight to this, because I realised that in the episode that we in the final episode that we did, neither of us mentioned what you actually did at the end, James. Like after
exactly,
you killed
that's
Gwyn.
what I just wanted to talk about.
So, do you want to talk through what you did and then what you thought after you did it?
Well, because the thing is I defeated it, and then there was a bonfire there, like an unlit bonfire. So I just wandered over to it and thought, okay, I'll save now, and lit it, and then that was it. But I don't really know. I don't really know what I've done. I don't really know what's happened.
So you, so basically, you cast yourself onto the bonfire and rekindled it. So I mean, like the point is, like overall, that it makes no real difference. Like, just sort of affects the timing of it. Like, so you've extended the age of light, but the whole point is, like, in another few hundred years or whatever, like the same thing is going to happen again. And
it's sort of implied that, like, when you do that, again in X amount of time, the same thing will happen again, and another chosen undead will show up and kill you. Yeah. In the same way that you showed up and killed Gwyn, and then they'll have that choice to prolong it and stuff. Which is one of the things that's interesting about that is it kind of makes sense if you go straight into New Game Plus as well. Almost like, you're just carrying on and doing the cycle again, which would have made the game loads better if you chose to do the other thing. You couldn't do New Game Plus. It was like, and you're done.
That's it. Yeah.
but you can just New Game Plus anyway. So
hang on. So Gwyn is somebody that had done this previously.
Yeah. So Gwyn used to be the Lord of Flame, Lord of Fire, one of those. And then, so the light started fading because the Age of Darkness is supposed to come back. And he was like, nah, not having this. So he chucked himself onto the bonfire, which, again, prolonged it, but completely fucked him up, at which point he became Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, which is why he's all mad and burnt up and, basically. So he survived the process, but, like, not really.
So, okay, when you say that it extends, like, the Age of Light, does that mean it resets anything at all, like, to being better, or is it just continuing how it is?
I think it's, like, sort of turns back the clock a certain amount.
Because if it's just the same as it is when you're playing the game, what's the point in doing that? Because it's shit, isn't it?
Well, it's already, it's kind of, well, exactly. For me, it was a bit like, well, I don't really want to preserve any of this anyway. It's sort of fucked. Yeah.
But it's funny, James, because you did pick up on that. You did pick up on that when we were playing, because after you lit the final bonfire, you turned around to me and said, I've just relit the flame. That's the flame that I've heard so much about.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was, but then I wasn't sure what significance that had. Like how it was supposed to...
right. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly like it's certainly built, I think, around the idea that on your first playthrough you will side with Frampt and then relight it, because it's kind of like, especially on your first playthrough, the second you meet Frampt and suddenly he just like explains a load of shit and it's like, oh my god, everything's been contextualized, this is brilliant, I'm on this guy's side. And then, like you say, you do the fight and it's like, oh, well, there's a button prompt at the fire, so I guess I'll use that. Like, it doesn't occur to you that you can just walk out. And that's a different ending.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know if you knew that, James. That was the other option. You could have
I did not know.
You could have just walked leave. Out, and that would have obviously let the flame burn out and end the age of
right. Do you get like a different ending for that then, or is it just?
Yeah, it's slightly different.
I mean, it's like 10 seconds of ending. It's basically you walk out back to where you place the Lord Vessel, and are there like a load of serpents, or is it just the two? I can't remember, but basically, they're like, hey, it's the new Lord of Dark or whatever. So
paraphrasing the implication
here. Just a bit. So the implication is, so you've ushered in this new Age of Dark, and you get to be the king of it.
Oh, nice. Should have done that. That'd have been alright.
You were on the path to do that. You were on the path to do it. Speaking to Darkstalker Kath.
Yeah. All right. Okay, what else did I have here? Okay, actually, I wanted to ask you about the skeletons as well. You know, the ones down in the catacombs?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Like, is there any background about what they are? Like, where they...
I think that's just necromancers fucking around, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's a catacomb, so it's got bodies in there anyway. But yeah, it's just the necromancers bringing them back to life.
Yeah.
Because I just wondered, because there was a whole bunch of skeletons that were like, as I said, like when we talked about it before, it's like, they were doing like acrobatics, and they were like the ninjas. That
the wheel arseholes.
No, just regular. There's regular ones.
There's some that are like really lively, basically.
Okay.
And I just wondered if it was like connected. Perhaps they'd formerly been ninjas, in their lives, and they were still at it. But ninja skeletons.
I think they're just some skeletons. Sorry, some of it is just like that.
Skeletons with rad skills.
Mm-hmm.
You just know that someone's going to tweet in during the week and go, actually, I think you'll find that they're... do you know what I mean? You're like... Oh,
that's what I meant, but at the start, though, we're trying to maintain some of the style of the podcast.
I did think I could spend the entire evening prior to this watching Epic Name Bro videos, but that would sort of kill it. So I'd just be parroting everything he says.
What is it? Oh, actually, that's Andre's brother. And if you look at the third rib of every skeleton you fight, you'll notice that he's actually from Yorkshire. Right. Go on.
All right. Also, the other thing I wanted to know about is some of the other NPCs in the game. Mm-hmm. Apart from the ones like Solaire and people like that. So, for example, like Jester, or Patches, as I think he's properly called.
Jester.
Yeah. So, are they aware of what is actually going on here? Like what is going on in the world?
I think the implication is that no one really knows as much as you do, because you've done more than everyone else, and I don't know. Yeah, I think everyone there has been fed this same thing that you might be the chosen one. You should maybe go to Orlando and try and sort shit out, but then they all just fuck up and go mad. So I think whatever they did know, they've sort of lost any real understanding of it. So
Patches is probably a bad place to start, though, because his whole character, the whole point of him is no one knows anything about him.
Yeah.
A couple of the characters, I know that Solaire definitely mentions him, and I'm pretty sure that you can get Lautrec to mention him as well at some point. That they or maybe it's the other way around, but I know that there's a link between those two characters, as in they sort of know who he is. But there's a character in Demon Souls called Patches the Hyena.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not meant to be the same one, but it's sort of implied that Patches is kind of like a link, just this one recurring character throughout the From Software Souls games, basically.
Is there a reference to him in Bloodborne?
Yes.
I think that... Is there?
There is. He's not a person, though.
Oh, right.
I seem to remember he's some sort of creature.
There you go.
There's something in his name that implies it's... Yeah, I forget what.
Oh, just a nice little touch from the devs then.
Yeah, but the whole Patches doesn't really have a solid background. He kind of is just in the tomb doing his thing.
Yeah. Getting people murdered and stealing their shit.
Exactly, being an absolute dickhead. I'm sorry, I don't trust anyone that doesn't kill him instantly after he pushes you down that thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas James just thought that was top bants.
No, I just thought, nothing happened, let bygones be bygones, it's all right.
Yeah, that famous phrase, let bygones be bygones.
Only attempt.
One thing that is kind of cool about him, though, and this sort of feeds into the whole locational storytelling and storytelling through items and stuff like that, is if you don't kill him, he eventually goes up to Firelink, and you can speak to him at Firelink Shrine like everyone else. He sells a bunch of stuff, which is cleric equipment. Now, the people who went into the tomb before you, who you find down there, and presumably a few others, they were all clerics because they're knights of the Way of the White or whatever it's called. So it's the reason why he sells cleric equipment. It's sort of implied that he's taken that off the bodies of people he tricked before you. And that's what he does. He sells that.
Yeah, it's top bands.
Yeah. Banto.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, rugby fan.
Rugby fan.
So I said on the podcast, wasn't it? He's a pure rugby fan. Just shit banter. Anyway, carry on.
Okay, I've got a question. Okay, because have you guys both played the second game?
Yes.
You have, okay. Because I've been very kindly sent a copy by... Thank you, Alex. It's been very good.
Cool.
Here we go. Season 2.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because I haven't started it yet, because I've got a lot I'm doing at the moment. But does it continue on from here? I mean, is there linkage between these?
Could not possibly confirm or deny that at this point.
Well, it's worth going through yourself. I don't know what you've heard about Dark Souls 2. Some people are a little bit down on it.
Which version did you get, for what it's worth?
See, the thing is, what I've heard about it is I heard that when it first came out, people weren't that impressed, compared with the first game. But that the Scholar of the First Sin, which is the copy I've got, is apparently much, much better.
Yes, much better.
Like the game itself, there's nothing wrong with. Like it is in many ways better. It was just that thematically, there wasn't half as much there.
Here, this conversation that we're having about lore, you can't really do that as well. Like you can with obviously Dark Souls 2, but it's nowhere near as interesting, basically. Yeah. And a lot of people, they like Dark Souls for the lore more than they like it for the game. Yeah. That's certainly an aspect of the community, and I think that a lot of them got very upset with the fact that you just can't quite have the same level of conversation about that sort of stuff. I thought it was a good game first time round, but I think Scholar really does fix a lot of the issues. It's a lot better paced, and the enemy placing.
Well, yeah, I mean, because we've both played a bit of Scholar of the First Sin, but we've not even got into the DLC, have we? Which is
I've just started the DLC.
Oh, have you? Okay, cool.
And it's exceptional.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very good.
Yeah, you see, I mean, I've been tempted to go back to the DLC for Dark Souls, but
it's very, very good. The DLC for Dark Souls.
If I do that though, I'm going to have to play for a long time, aren't I, to get to where I can get into it? From what I understand,
you've got to do half the game again.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's a bit annoying. In fact, it's not a bit annoying. It's incredibly annoying. But
that said, you'd be amazed how quickly you can belt through to that point on a second run through.
See, this is why I begin to feel like that this game, is properly amazing, because you see, like you said, there's some people that appreciate the lore more than the game, but I really enjoyed the game, and it's like, and the more I learn about the lore, I like that. It sounds very interesting as well. So I get this. It's good.
Next,
I don't know. I think that's about it. I haven't really got much else.
Okay, bye.
Most stuff.
Okay, right. That's surprisingly short for your 10 questions that you apparently had, which you've obviously bowed on. Not done your homework. But
do you want me to send them to you?
I did. No, thanks. I did. I was wondering, was there anything is there anything you want to tell James that he might not have picked up on that he'd find interesting?
I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, probably some stuff. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Did we? I can't remember about the previous lore episode, but did we talk about Sif in the previous one?
We did. Yeah. But we did. Because James.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I was going to say I thought something else, but it's separate. So carry on, and then.
Yeah, no. We were talking about. Because I said because he wasn't doing the DLC, we could spoil it, so we went.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, that's true. What were you going to say, Sean?
Yeah, the Painted World of Ariamis. Did you figure out what that was?
See, that's the other thing. Is that was a question I was going to ask you actually, but I didn't because I just thought it's too obvious. You see, the thing with that is I didn't kill the woman in the Painted World, and David talked about it a bit and said it doesn't really matter or whatever. But if what significance does she have? Like, what is the deal with that? Because I know. Go on.
So the whole thing with Painted World of Ariamis is if you look at the stuff that's in there and some of the items you find, because you get the Chaos Ember there, I believe, and some other stuff. And basically, the implication is that it is this. It's effectively like a prison for stuff that the gods don't want people to get their hands on, because chaos damage is sort of most effective against your divine enemies. So they sort of banish stuff into this painting, and that's how they seal stuff away. And basically the deal with Priscilla is she is a crossbreed, isn't she? She's like half dragon and half human or half god. I can't remember. But basically, so the gods here is this abomination. So they imprison her there as well. She's basically innocent. She's one of the few people in the game who is not really guilty of anything in any way.
Hang on. But then also, is she in control of the things that are down there? Like,
I don't think so. No, I think she's basically imprisoned in there with them. I don't think she...
Right, okay.
Because we had that
discussion about that. Because she says, like, nothing's attacked, it's like, don't attack stuff and all that. It's like, but they did attack me, like, on the way in.
Yeah.
And, I didn't... And so I just felt a bit weak, that.
See, because, I kind of thought that maybe the original concept was that you enter the area and you can literally walk through the area without being attacked. I think that might have been the original idea. And then the moment you attack one of them, everyone starts attacking you, right? But then maybe in playtesting or whatever, they thought, actually, too many people just walking about this thing without attacking everyone, and it's a big part of the game that no one's really getting any sort of challenge out of. I don't know, but that's the feeling I got from it, because the dialogue at the end really suggests that, it was supposed to be a peaceful place when it's not really, because you're getting attacked left, right and centre the moment you enter it. So, maybe not. But I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? It's a very weird area. Is there any truth in the fact that it was like the sort of the first thing they created?
Oh, the developers?
Yeah.
I don't know. Never heard that.
Where did I hear that? I heard it was like the first sort of... the first thing they worked on. And that's why it kind of feels like, Dark Souls personified, because you've got essentially a very small map that feels massive because it takes you a long way around things, which can
like it's really intricate
short.
and
and that's kind of why it's separate from the rest of the world, because then they created that and then went on to create the rest of the game world. But I could be wrong. I'm sure I either read that or heard that on a podcast or something.
That would make sense, because it's probably the most Demon Souls-y area. Out of everything, it's very like the way that whole level is structured is very, very similar to Demon Souls. And in fact, that weird thing that looked like a block of shields. That I think you did not like it. That thing, that's actually very similar to the first boss in Demon Souls. In fact, it pretty much is the first boss in Demon Souls, just slightly smaller. So it would not. There's a lot of signs that definitely add up to that being the first area they made. Yeah, definitely. I actually have a few. I've got a couple. I've had a think.
Go on.
The first one is, when you fought the big knight on the top of Sen's fortress, did you summon the NPC to fight alongside you?
No.
Okay, right. Well, it's not a big deal, but there's a summon that you can get alongside you. Now, a bit later on in the game, when you're in Anor Londo, by the giant painting, there's in that huge open room where the painting is, and there's all those ninja dudes kicking around. There's towards the back wall, or maybe I think it might be in the middle of the floor. I can't remember, but there's one of the white pickups picks up the black iron armor set.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a fairly decent heavy armor set. Well, essentially what happens is the guy that you can summon for the fight against the giant knight is a guy called Black Iron Tarkus, who's a big burly bastard who goes, he basically just roars and runs into battle. He's like a really aggressive NPC. And he's quite useful in that fight. And it's implied, again, by the locational storytelling, that you kill the knight, and then you go over the wall to Anor Londo, and you first go up in that smashed window. You kind of run up that bit of the roof and going through the smashed window. It's implied that he smashed the window, so you're following his path. And the reason why you find his suit of armor in the middle of the floor in that big room is because he tried to walk on the beams like you did, and he fucked it. Yeah. Because of his armor set, because it's huge. So it's little things like that which I really love about the game. There's a weird one with the armor set that you ended up using, Havel's armor. So Havel is linked to Anor Londo, and you find his set of armor in his chapel in Anor Londo. And when you find his suit of armor, you also find an occult weapon, and I think it's an occult club with it, which of implies, because it's an occult weapon, the gods are weak to occult magic, and it's near the painting where everything was sealed away, that he was dabbling with the occult stuff, and the gods found out and got pretty pissed with him. So it's then a bit weird, because how come there's a guy with his armor set on in that tower cutting about? Is it Havel? Might be. But the other thing that is, when you kill that guy, he drops Havel's ring, which is a ring that you have to wear to be able to hold that armor. So maybe it wasn't him. It was just someone who got the ring and therefore could put the armor on, because it's implied that Havel was strong enough to just wear the armor anyway. So there's loads of little bits like that where it kind of makes you, it's neither confirmed or denied that it's one or the other. It's just these weird sort of like, could he, is it, maybe?
Yeah, then you're thinking, where is Havel now, if that's the case? You know, what happened to him?
Yeah, exactly. But the big one, and this is like definitely my favourite and a lot of people's favourites, is the story of Sigmar of Katarina, aka Onion Bro. So he's the guy that with the weird, like, it looks like an onion on his head, suit of armour. You first meet him sat on the fence by Sen's Fortress.
Yeah.
He just kind of sits there going,
Yeah. So he's
kind of seems a bit of a dick at first.
I said that was a good impression, mate. You're like,
Thank you.
Like Alistair McGowan.
I know. Rob Brydon, mate. Coming for you.
What happened on the fishing trip? Go on.
So you find him throughout the game, and you may have bumped into him a few times, and pretty much every time you find him, he's feeling sorry for himself, or he's in trouble, and you got to help him. And every time you find him, if he's in trouble, you kill the enemies around him, and he moves somewhere else, or you just exhaust his dialogue options, and then he'll move on. And so as you play through the game, you come across him a few times, and you kind of find out that he's left home because he hollowed, and he was kind of, exiled like a lot of people.
Well, he's not hollowed yet, has he? He's just gone undead.
Yeah, he's gone undead.
He's not lost his mind yet, but...
Yeah, so he's turned into an undead, and he's been kicked out of where he lived, and he's sort of roaming the land. And every time he's in, usually when you find him, he's in like a bad place, like before Sen's Fortress or Anor Londo. And it's sort of implied that he's terrified of doing the next thing, the next task. And, as you go through the game, you chat with him, you get him out of a couple of situations, and he basically, sort of comes to like you. And eventually, did you get to that bit in Lost Islip where the floor gives way? And it takes you into that little poisonous pit full of those weird squid things.
Yes, I remember. That was really irritating, but I remember that.
Was he, I don't know if you might have spoke to him beforehand to trigger him being there, but was he there?
No, he wasn't.
Okay, well, if you trigger the events and get him there, he basically says, like, this is my moment, you've saved me, and, you've told me to be brave throughout this journey, and you've got me out of a bind at various intervals, and now it's my turn to repay you. And he fucking shouts his name and dives into battle to come and help you. And it's pretty epic, to be honest. And this is where things get a little bit weird, because I actually managed to kill the monsters without him dying. Mm-hmm. And after you do that, he sort of goes, oh, you helped me kill them, and you sort of didn't really need my help after all. And he's a bit not sort of put out, but just a bit like gutted that he hasn't really got anything left. Now, earlier on in the journey, you actually find his daughter who's looking for him. And, again, throughout the game, you kind of bump into her if you follow his quote-unquote plot line. But after this final meeting with him, if you go down into Ash Lake, an area you did not go to at all
really?
In your entire playthrough of the game.
Where's that?
I'll tell you in a minute. Go on.
Yeah. You find him dead on the floor, and his daughter stood next to him. And it's sort of implied that because you killed all those monsters, he didn't really have anything else left. Like, that was his sort of final, like, maybe I have a purpose. I can be a hero. and you didn't let him have that moment, and he eventually just goes hollow, and his daughter had to put him down, and she sort of says, "No, that sucks." And then you get to be fair, you get a Titanite slab offer, so it's worth doing. If you want his quote unquote happy ending, when he jumps into that pit in Lost Izalith, you just leave him to it. Let him have a warrior's death. That's his happy ending.
Yeah, you see, that's the other thing that I really feel that I did miss from this playthrough, though, as well, is the fact that I didn't really interact with anybody, like, really. I mean,
it's super easy to just miss a lot of the NPC stuff.
Yeah.
Because also, I only summoned, like, I think twice, like, through the whole game, like, for doing the, like, boss battles and stuff. Mostly because when we were playing, like, David kept on going on about, the humanity aspect and that kind of thing, and when I got to Analondo, I'd really need it and everything. So I just stocked up on it, and like by the end, I had tons of it left still.
Yeah,
and and it's like that's why I didn't summon, because I just thought, I might need this. And there's always that tension, right? If you offer it up and then you get it, then you still got to make the run to the boss. If you die on the way, you're like, that's been a waste.
Yeah, definitely. I had that
like,
the first half of my playthrough.
Yeah, but like that first run through, it's impossible to gauge because you don't really know how much you've got to do.
I had the same with Bloodborne as well, with their, whatever it's called, insight. Yeah, you don't know whether you need to do it, but then I ended the game with fucking tons of the stuff. So, but again, that's one of the cool things about the Souls games is the first time through you have all those nail biting, amazing moments, like when you beat Ornstein and Smough and finishing the game and all these bits and pieces. But when you play it through the second time, a lot of that is diminished. But because you know how the systems work, you can almost start having fun with them. And they are robust enough to allow you a lot of experimentation. And that is why another one of the reasons why the game is sort of regarded in, such high regards, basically.
How much more difficult is New Game Plus over?
I found it really easy until I got to Ornstein and Smough. Like dead easy, because your weapons, if you've maxed them out, they are pretty much good for like New Game Plus before they start looking long in the tooth. Like you will go into New Game Plus now, and you'll probably be able to drop like the first couple of bosses in 3 hits.
Well, yeah, that's what happened with because I did kind of immediately do that actually. Like after we finished it, did we record that, Dave? I can't remember.
No, I don't think you got to. Oh, yeah, you got to the asylum boss, didn't you? The stray demon.
Killed it really quick.
And you killed it without having to run down the left-hand side. Yeah.
Which you can do first time through.
Yeah. If you.
Oh yeah, I'm actually just another thing, James. One thing that Dave constantly hinted at, and you sounded like utterly disbelieving of, is the ability to finish the game without leveling up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
See, I still don't know how you could do that.
Do you want me to tell you how to do it?
Go on.
Just in case, like season 2 is the Wombro run. So basically what you do is you pick a pyromancer, because that class starts at level 1, and you begin the game as normal, and you get to Firelink, and you go into you never level up at this point. You fight your way to the first the merchant, the undead merchant in there, and you buy the what's it called? This is how most people do it anyway. You buy the club. The wooden, it's like, I think it's the spiked club that you buy. And the spiked club, the pyromancer has just enough skill to be able to use it. But the thing about the spiked club is you can level it up quite easily and quite substantially very quickly, and it has an A grade scaling with the strength stat, which is already quite high on pyromancer. I
thought the whole thing with the club is that you make it into a raw one so that your stats don't.
That's it. That's it. So eventually you make it to a raw one, but at first, if you put it as +5. Very quickly, it's really, really lethal. And then what you do for bosses like the Four Kings is you just go you buy a couple of clubs, you buy another, and you just go down into the catacombs and make that one into a fire club. And then you can make one into a lightning club for a couple of other bosses. And basically, it just shows that in that game, your gear is far more important than your level, because it doesn't matter how much health you've got if you're not getting hit. You know, it doesn't matter how much health you've got if, you know, you're blocking at the right time and getting out the way. What is more important is how much damage you can deal. And obviously, if you've got a crap weapon, it's going to take hours to beat a boss. But if you've got if you can wield like a plus 15 spiked club, that will make short work of any bosses, whether you've put points into your game or not. So it's more about upgrade. It's all about upgrading the weapons and then just being a little bit better at dodging and blocking in combat. So it is very doable. I actually started a run myself and tapped out, surprise, surprise, the 4 kings.
See, maybe I should try that with the Tony Hawk's Ride controller and see if that's possible.
I mean, obviously people do play it with really, really silly things, but I mean, I eventually it became too difficult, but it was, I mean, I got quite far into it and it was a lot of fun because it brings the challenge back of that first time playing the game, because it is, you know, you've got to be on point the whole time. But again, this is just another example of being able to sort of abuse the game systems to your will. And that's quite cool. Like, there's tons of stuff like that in the game. Like, people have figured out a way to use certain magic spells that buff your damage if you're low on health, and specific weapons and that they can basically go into a battle, buff themselves, get hit by the boss once, and then kill it in one shot. And people have done entire playthroughs where they go through and their one goal is to one-shot every boss in the game, so they're not allowed to kill the boss unless they do it in one hit.
See, this is why, I mean, this is a game that I'm pretty much certain I will go back to at some point. Because most games like this that are like, you know, role-play games, this kind of thing, you know, I finish and I never really want to play again, but this kind of thing makes it more interesting. Yeah, to play. Especially, I'd like to play as a different class, to be honest, because I'd like to try some magic. Yeah, I'd like to see how that works out.
Yeah, I really hope they do they stick it on that Xbox One compatibility list, because that's working so well, and I really think that if they're not going to reissue it in the same way they did with Dark Souls 2. The fact that you can stream it from your console with the touch of a button. I mean, I've used the backwards compatibility on the Xbox One now, and it's absolutely flawless. And the way it integrates the Xbox One's stuff into it is just so well done. Like, it would be a no-brainer to release it. And all the reports talking about Mass Effect and Fallout 3 and how it's fixed the frame rate issues and stuff. Like, imagine Blighttown.
Yeah, I was really hoping it was going to happen like sooner, because I really thought that my 360 was going to die like while I was playing this game, because the 360 I've been using is an original launch machine, and which, like, I mean, it's really old now. I mean, how old would it be? But over 10 years old, and it's so loud. It sounds like a jet engine, and I was certain it was going to like red ring, but it didn't. Not even in Blighttown. It's a
Dark Souls.
Right then. Well, I think we'll call it there.
Can I just ask one last question?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. You know, what about those? I want to talk about those babies.
Which ones?
The ones which.
Which ones? God, that shows how dark this game is.
Yeah.
You know which ones I'm talking about, David?
Yeah, the little skeleton fellas at the bottom of the catacombs.
That's the one.
Tomb of the Giants.
What's the deal with them? Because that was the only time in the game that I really did genuinely feel kind of like it's not nice.
I think that is just the necromancers not really giving two shits what they're resurrecting.
Yeah.
I think that is just them resurrecting kids.
Nice.
So there you go.
And you just crumbling them with your boots. Don't you just run over those ones?
No, you
remember.
have to.
You've got to swipe them.
You have to deal with them. Yeah.
I've just, for the first time this episode, just looked up the lore just in case it was something super important, because I've never actually looked into it myself, and there is no lore. They are just a bunch of baby skeletons. I think they are literally there just to make you feel a bit uncomfortable.
Oh, fuck. Did we ever... I can't remember how this bit of James's playthrough went. When you meet Guinevere and she gives you the Lord Vessel and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't mentioned...
Yeah.
No, we haven't mentioned the big thing. Oh, fuck. Okay. How have we missed that?
So you know how Anna Londo's beautiful and there's like...
Oh, God, yeah.
So basically, if you attack Guinevere when she's lying there with her norks out...
Yeah, the one with the big boobs, James.
Yeah, I remember.
Basically, she just vanishes. She is an illusion, as is the sun. Basically, yes, if you attack her, the illusion drops, and basically all of Anor Londo goes dark. and it's horrible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, basically, it turns out her. Now, I've been in trouble for this before. Basically, she has a sibling who is of an indeterminate gender. The way the game explains it is that he was born male, but then raised as a woman because he had an affinity for the moon. So if you're treating her as a transgender character, then yes, she's female. And that's Dark Sun Gwendolyn, who is like the ruler of one of the covenants. See, we never really got into covenants either. There's bloody loads of them. And you can fight her, and
she's hit a secret boss in Anor Londo, isn't she?
Yeah. She's like totally hidden away. And basically she's the one who's created this illusion that like, oh yeah, no, the sun's still up, guys. It's fine. It's all right. And there's I forget where it is. There's a bit of lore somewhere that basically, it's like, Gwendolyn's the only one left. All the other gods have been like, look, mate, it's over, and they've all fucked off.
So hang on, so it's an illusion, so actually it is dark.
Yes, everything you see and everything you saw in your playthrough at Anor Londo is fake. The whole thing is actually plunged into darkness because the only one left is the one that's sort of the god of the moon. The rest of them are either dead or fucked off.
Imagine going through that area, like especially those archers in the dark.
What happens if you do that as well? The whole area becomes hostile for invasions as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's including just the Firekeeper and stuff.
Yeah, it just becomes a complete fucking war. Oh yeah, and you know that woman, the Firekeeper, who's just like stood leaning against a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she comes after you and stuff.
Yep, it's grim.
Okay, one last question though. Is you said there was an area that I didn't go to.
Yeah, I was just coming to that. There is a reason why I didn't take you down there, James, and that's because from our perspective, from a gameplay perspective, it would have been completely pointless. I didn't know the lore. I still don't really know the lore aspects of Ash Lake. Basically, it's, the bottom of Blighttown.
Mm-hmm.
You've got that poison pond thing. Well, to the right-hand side, you run over to the right-hand side where Quailag's lair was, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you ran left, there was a tree called the Great Hollow, I think. Is that right?
Not yet. I mean, there's a tree and you go in it, but there's nothing in there. But then if you hit a piece of wall that doesn't give you any indicator, it disappears and you can walk through a hole in the wall. So there's like an illusionary wall there that you have to actually hit with your sword.
Yeah.
And then it takes you to the Great Hollow, Yeah,
it takes you to the Great Hollow, which is an insane area that's just literally just platform. It's like something out of Banjo-Kazooie. It's just like loads of these like branches, roots and stuff that you've got to sort of drop down, and it's really, it's quite difficult to do.
All the enemies in there are those lads who can curse you as well. Yeah,
that's right. And if I remember correctly, if you do this before you get the Lord Vessel, then you're quite fucked, because then you've got to climb it afterwards, haven't you? And it's really difficult.
Yeah, that's true, because I did that.
Yeah, you can't just walk out of it.
So what's down there though? I mean,
well, if you go to the bottom of that, you go into this area called the Ash Lake, which it's a bit weird because the whole game kind of makes sense. As in, if you're up at Anor Londo, or you can go to Sen's Fortress, and if you go to the Firelink Shrine and look down from the aqueduct, you can see the bottom of Blighttown. And then if you go to Blighttown, you can go into, Lost Izalith, which is obviously the underworld, hell. There's lava in the center of the universe, center of the earth and stuff. There is a kind of, real, tangible structure to it. So the Great Hollow is inside this tree, so it makes sense because it's the big inside of a tree. But when you get to the bottom of it, you go into this area, and it's like open sky, and it's all like weird sand dunes and like open water. And there's a couple of those hydras in there, just as like normal enemies, and a couple of other enemies that are only in that area. And it's got really, really eerie music, and it almost feels like a space existing out of time. And right at the bottom of it, which is like apparently like the bottommost section of the game, there's a tree that you can go in, and there is actually a dragon in there, sort of doing away with the theory that all the dragons were killed when Seath betrayed them, that one survived, the everlasting dragon, and it's right at the bottom. And if you chat to it, you can join a dragon covenant, which is something I haven't done much of, but it's probably my favourite covenant in the game, because the way that the dragon covenant works is you put a sign down, and other players in the dragon covenant can see the sign, summon you into their game for a ruck. So it's basically like Fight Club. And if you win a fight with another dragon, you get a stone that you can use to upgrade weapons like the Drake Sword. Because that's the thing, the Drake Sword's a bit of a ball ache to upgrade, but if you get into this covenant, stuff like that is actually quite easy to upgrade because you get the stuff from doing it.
The other thing with the Ash Lake, I never actually went there, but I've seen pictures and videos and stuff. It looks a lot like the bit in the intro video where it's like, oh, before the light there was dragons and that. It basically looks identical to that. Which, I don't know, draw your own conclusions. I mean, the implication is like, yeah, this is where the dragons were from, or where they used to hang out, or this is like what everything was like before Gwyn came along and did the first flame.
Yeah. I think the only other boss you didn't do in the game, other than the ones we just mentioned, Gwendolyn and going to Ash Lake, is the big red Drake dragon on the bridge.
Oh, you didn't kill that, did you?
Yeah, I never killed
His nemesis.
I managed to avoid it for the entire game.
Yeah, so did I. It's actually one of the hardest bad guys in the game. There's some debate as to whether it's actually meant to be fought and is it bugged, because it actually starts getting its health regenerated while you're fighting it, so you have to actually kill it quicker than its health regens. Otherwise, it can like one-shot you even at like ridiculously high levels. So there is some possible discussion that it's bugged and has never been fixed, but you can kill it. And
Michael Fox did it.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised.
He was just like, killed that. Michael Fox, he just did it, no problem.
Yeah, but he talks a lot of bullshit as well, so I'm not, I would pinch of salt required with that.
Michael Fox was nearly the reason why I never played this game. So it's like,
but that's it, isn't it? Same here. So basically, in short, if you'd have gone down to Ash Lake during this playthrough, all you'd have said to me is, I don't get it. There's a few enemies down here scattered about. There's nothing really to see. I don't understand why I'm here. And I wouldn't have been able to tell you the lore stuff because I didn't really know it myself. So it was kind of like, it would have been a completely pointless adventure, basically. Yeah. And, and the amount of people that were going, take it to Ash Lake, please. And I'm kind of like, I can't really. It'll make no sense. But
it's not so bad to go to after you got the Lord Vessel because you can just teleport out, like you said. But going down there beforehand is fucking ball ache.
This is all stuff you can now search on YouTube, James.
Yeah, which I will be doing because I want to see that. I want to see what it looks like.
Well, the words to put in is "prepare to cry." That was the series that really sort of got me going. Oh shit, this is really cool. So definitely seek that out. But yeah, I think that's a good place to end it. Thanks again for coming on, Andy and Sean.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries.
Any plugs?
Resistance.co.uk is a bad website. Don't go there.
Oh,
yes.
You don't mean that. Just plug it all the time.
It's a good podcast.
Debatable.
Hey, we've been doing all right on the new schedule, to be fair.
Yeah.
That's our new thing.
When's your next one up?
Owen's done the Metal Gear Solid special. That's going up soon as he edits.
When's the next one up?
Then we're recording another episode this Friday.
Excellent. Looking forward to it. Sorry, that was a little joke there. Okay, so that's it. I don't really know how to end it, but we'll be back hopefully in a couple of weeks with the Q&A. We need more questions. So if you've got a question for James or myself, or you've either got a comment or something you want to correct us on regarding the lore, anything, tweet us at Dark Calls Pod on Twitter. And I'll hopefully remember to favourite it, and we'll get to it when we record the podcast.
We could just reserve half an hour or whatever to corrections. At the end.
Yeah, just a big
that is probably
statement.
A really good idea.
Public statement at the end. Oh, sorry about that. Well, I'm sure you'll have plenty more to say about the lore when you come back when we talk next. But yeah, good. There will be no season 2. Okay, goodbye everyone. Thanks for listening.
Bye bye.
Cheers.
Bye bye.